So now we're going to get into a couple examples where I'm intentionally creating some error in my control file to showcase kind of what that can look like and how to go about it, and some tips and tricks to kind of to get around if you are having these issues. So the bare minimum, if you're going to use targets, whether it's black and white, virtual targets, whatever, as long as if you're importing this control text file, you need a minimum of 3 points to apply control. And they cannot be in a straight line. If you're in a straight line with those points, your point cloud will never work, even if it says you can. The errors and error vectors are very small. If they're all in a straight line, your point cloud is going to still kind of rotate or orbit about those points in that line. So just know you need 3 points that are basically perpendicular, 2 in a line and 1 perpendicular, just somewhere. You need some space so that you can kind of ensure that the level of the data set is correct. So right off the bat, wanted to show you in the links tab, we have this max target error. Right now it's at 0.08 or 1 inch. And so any error that's seen that's over this threshold, the software knows it will ignore it, or it'll automatically ignore it. And in the case of this first example, I'm only going to import a control file that has 3 points and apply those controls to the 3 points that I have in this data set. And because the error is going to be more than this 0.08, it's going to automatically ignore it, and it's going to give us a warning. So now I'll go right click on my bundle, apply control, and I'll do the 3 points with error. So when I do this, it's going to give you this not enough correspondences to apply control. Basically what it's telling you is, per the settings and per the 0.08, the max target error, it doesn't have enough information that it can safely apply a control to. So if I wanted to override that, I would go and say, let's bump this up to 1 foot. So now when I come in here and apply control with the 3 points, now it'll actually give me the green light. And so when I go to my apply control, you'll see, right, this error vector is evenly distributed, or the error is evenly distributed through the 3 points, even though this number 4, that's the only point that I intentionally messed up. And I cannot change the weighted value because there's only 3 points. It's just not enough information, or there's not enough data for the software to basically do the distribution or to do the weighted value. You need a minimum of 4 points, so at that point you can start to actually apply weights and then reapply them. Because even if I were to come in here to number 4, the point that I intentionally messed up, and I put this to 0.5, and now I go reapply control, my values stay the exact same. Simply put, because you need 4 points or more to be able to use the weighted value. So that's how you can kind of go about it. If you're getting that not enough correspondence and you only have 3 points, try bumping up your error 1 foot, 2 foot, whatever, just to try to see if you can figure out if it's due to a typo in your control file or simply bad control points that are given to you from a field engineer, from a surveyor, whatever. Those are some options you have. So now I'm going to put this back to 0.08. So I'm going to remove this control, and now I'm going to apply control with 4 points with the same point that's off. So yep, my 0.08, right, I put it back to that 1 inch. My number 4 target is actually about 1.5 inches or closer to 2 inches off. So it still was able to apply control even though this 4th point wasn't used initially. So because of that error, it was beyond that 0.08, it automatically ignored it. And so that's why it automatically basically just turned off the point, because this value, or this error vector, 0.14, was beyond that 0.08 threshold that we have in the settings. And so here, right, if I re-enable it, you can start to see the errors and how it kind of gets distributed. So say like this is kind of a real world scenario where you get your control points, you apply them, you get some error, which you're never going to have perfect zeros, because whether it's your registration or from the surveyor side with your control points, there's always going to be some error. But if it's just 1 point or 2 points, you can typically kind of see that error have a higher value in the point that was simply put incorrect. So in this case, 0.105, right? It's more than double the error of the other point. So I kind of have a feeling that this is going to be the problem child of this data set and of the control file that was given to me. So here, now we can come in and we can start to change the values. So I go reapply control now. So instead of 0.105, now we're at 0.12. So when you do that, you can kind of see, do the other points in their errors get lesser and lesser? If they do, and this one goes up, that's a very good sign that, right, this control point is more likely the problem, and it's something to be ignored. Now, in this case, this is I intentionally only messed up the one, but in real world scenarios, right, it's going to be kind of a mixed match. It's going to be a couple points, and so it's just trying to find that happy medium where it's a good best fit, a good average of everything. If I was seeing this much error, I would just turn this point off and then roll with the others, right? Because I just don't, if I can see there's that much error, I don't want that to affect the accuracy of the data set, because it's quite obvious that, yep, I got some issues here. And so you can kind of continue this troubleshooting by continuing to put that weighted value down and notice that, yep, I'm getting closer and closer to 0. So at that point, I would just simply disable it, ignore it entirely, and now I've got a really tight registration and how it is tied into the control points that are given to me. So in this case, if you noticed, all of my links were locked before I applied control. If I were to have my links unlocked, so if I go remove this, so now I'm looking at my data set, right? My links are locked, there's no control, there's nothing active. If I come in here and I unlock everything, and I come in and I apply, and in this case I'm actually going to bump my error up to 1 foot, so I know it will accept that control point, that bad one. So if I come in now and I go apply control, and I apply the control with 4 points with the one that's off. So yep, want to match. So now if you notice, the links are locked. So what it did is it best fit, and it moved the setups and it adjusted the links to best fit your control. Right? There's still going to be some error in this number 4 point because it was just that severely off from being accurate, but it moved the data set and adjusted the relationship of the links between setups to try to best fit the control points even better. So keep that in mind. I mean, my workflows and my recommendation is do your registration, get it as tight as humanly possible and as perfect as humanly possible, lock it, then at that point you want to apply control. Because if you can verify and you know your registration's tight, and then when you apply control and you start to see the errors, you can have a better judge and a better feel of, is this a registration issue or is this a control issue of what was given to me? So it's kind of one step of troubleshooting, how to go about troubleshooting when you're having issues and you can't quite trust, or you just don't know what's going on with the control and why your data set won't turn out perfectly. That's just a good practice, is do your registration, get it as perfect as possible, lock everything, then you can apply control. Because, right, I trust my registration, I trust my data set, so if something is now throwing these errors, I can have a pretty good feeling that it's not my scans, it's probably the control points. Or it could be vice versa. Say there's a super difficult registration, you didn't have good overlap, good cloud to cloud. At that point, you may want to have it unlocked and trust the control points of your surveyors, of your field engineers. So it's just kind of a by data set basis. Like, it's not a one-stop shop or a one workflow meets the needs of everything. It's kind of this hybrid, just understanding the situation you're in and what works best and what's the best use case to apply control. So those are a couple options you have, from diagnosing and finding error and understanding where's this error coming from. Is it from the scans? Is it from the control, the total station? You name it. Those are some of the basics of applied control. And in the next, we'll get into some of our control scans and kind of the workflows of using an external or third-party scan data set to get control applied to. So see you in the next one.